Pat, let's head a little bit further north, down up I-94 to a spot that you and I spent a lot of time with. That's St. Cloud.
Yeah.
You talk about a team with essentially two different storylines. Non-conference, which normally has been a very strong for the Huskies, was anything but at 2-4 this year. Then they get to NCHC conference. A lot of questions surrounding the team. They've won 6 straight. Now, granted, it's been against a couple of opponents that haven't had a great start, such as Miami, UMD, which I thought was one hell of a battle last weekend myself. Your thoughts on the Huskies season, which has been, shall we say, a seesaw so far early?
Well, I tell you what, first off, I think Brett Larson's one of the best coaches in college hockey. And so they have that going for him. And when they have that going for him, he is able to take a player and put him in a spot where that player is going to succeed. And if the player is not doing what he is told, he will see the bench for a little while. But he has a very good way of getting his point across to his players. And it amazes me because I look at listen, as you know, I've seen a lot of the St. Cloud teams in the past. This team does not have the talent that some of those teams had in the past. You know, they're not 3 lines deep. They aren't 6 defense deep. The goaltending, it quite frankly is up and down. Pretty good right now. So that's good. But in the past, it's been pretty stable. And so what they've been able to do is buy in and win. And with each win, I don't care who it's against, it gains confidence. And so you start believing you're going to win. You don't go in hoping to win. You go in expecting to win. And when you have that type of attitude, things are more often than not go your way. And so he's got them playing really well, and they're in a great spot now to start the NCHC 6-0 in that league. The rest of the league is chasing, and so good for him, good for them.
Yeah, and I will admit, Pat, when I was preparing to have the mentor conference play, I was not confident. Again, being swept against Minnesota State, and then they defeat a very tough Western Michigan team in Lawson, which is
difficult.
Very difficult. In fact, they hadn't won a game since 2019 in that building. And granted, one of the best atmospheres in college hockey in terms of even an opposing fan. It's just a very great atmosphere. So more of a kudos to Lawson than anything, those lunatics. But one thing that you talk about consistency is, how about Vidi Miettinen and the Flying Finn, right? 9 goals on the season. He leads the squad there. This is vintage Vidi. When he burst on the scene a couple of years ago during the pod season, I think 12 goals his freshman year, and nobody could stop him. It seems like he's found that form again. But more so, Pat, it seems like he's getting better in some of those areas that we were kind of criticizing him in. That is in traffic. He was a player that loved to be in space. He seems to be finding a way to get things through, even with a lot of traffic that's around him. What have you seen from Vidi?
Well, what I see in him, he tried to be the same player his second year. But guess what? Other coaches, players, they figure people out. So every year as a player, you have to grow. And what does that mean? Well, you have to add more to your arsenal or difference, or, listen, he has one of the quickest releases in college hockey. And I think his sophomore year, he tried to do a little bit too much, tried to get a little too fancy instead of getting the puck where he, in those shooting areas and ripping it. Because when he did, it was like, wow. You just go, wow. It on his stick, off his stick, back of the net. And so I think I think he learned from that, and his game is growing and developing. And, he's been, listen, if that team's going to go, he's got to be one of the guys that's leading the way. And, same thing with Minnesota and Snuggerud and Lamb and Nelson and guys like that. You've got your go-to guys have to produce for you. And he is so far for them.
He certainly has. And, when we talk about this point in the season, Pat, sometimes you have these breakout players. Joey Molinar, 7 goals. And mind you, as in contrast to Vitti, these are greasy rebound, goal moth type goals. St. Cloud has been missing this essentially since their 2021 national championship run. So to me, it's not just that Joey Molinar is scoring 7 goals, which I believe already is a career high. It's more of how he's scoring them, right?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing with Joey, and I've loved Joey since day one, because he always makes the right play. He always now he's not the fleetest of foot, but then again, he's a big guy. So there's another guy, Nick, who has kind of figured it out. I'm big, I'm strong, I can manhandle guys, those D-men in front of the net. I can get to the slots. I can work down low. I can be near the net. You do not score unless you are near the net. And the majority of the goals are scored from 5 feet out. And he's figuring that out, and he's got 7. Don't change a thing. You still have to do your other parts of what Brett wants him to get done. And, but I tell you what, you keep feeding a guy that's hot, and I'm happy for him. He's wearing a letter. He's showing some leadership and growth and maturity. And that's exactly what you need from your older guys.
And this was certainly what Brett Larson and St. Cloud saw in him when they recruited him, years ago. And
he's got a great stick too. He's got really good hands. I mean, most big guys, chop the puck up a little bit, and not this kid. He's got really good hands.
Silky mitts, as they say, right, Pat?
Yeah.
Now, mind you, we have to contrast this. If there's one area for the Huskies that's been a bit of a question mark, you mentioned goaltending. Mind you, for years it was the David Rennick show, right?
Yep.
Last year, Jackson Castor.
Yeah.
And then this year it's been the Dominic Bassey show. Early on, their goaltending, let's just say, has been a bit shaky at times. Is this potentially the one Achilles heel for this St. Cloud State team as they go throughout the season? What do you even notice with their goaltending?
Well, when it comes to goaltending, it's always, I always have a caveat there, because sometimes the goaltender is a product of the system.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I'd have to go back and look at the goals, right? And say, you know what? You got hung out to dry there. You know what? You got to make that save. And there's probably a little bit of both. So is it the Achilles heel? Well, it could be. Is it the way that they are defending? Well, it could be that too. So I always, it's really simple to blame the one guy, right? But you could blame 6 guys that are out on the ice: the goaltender, your D, and your 3 forwards. And so, it's kind of a combination of things. And you just, as a goaltender, you don't want to give up a bad goal, because that affects everybody, and you want to make that big save that pumps everybody up and gets everybody going. So it's hard for me to say if that is going to be the Achilles heel, because listen, you've seen him. He's played great at times. So they hope that he can continue that.
He's 6'6". He's a big goaltender. So let's just say I'm not scoring on him, because his shoulders are already at the crossbar, even in the butterfly position. Right. So it covers a lot of net, even when he's in that stance, Pat.